Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Russ Friesinger.
And I'm Jeanelle Slade. The first vaping-related death now confirmed here in Montana.
Health authorities telling Q2 tonight that medical experts pieced together the details and earlier this week determined the teenager died due to e-cigarette use.
Well, tonight specific details are not being released, including when the teenager died and where the victim lived.
Now, the death brings the total of confirmed vaping-related cases in Montana to 3. The other confirmed cases here in Yellowstone and also in Gallatin counties.
Q2's Mitch Laggy is on this story today to tell us what experts do know about this death and the growing list of sicknesses across the country.
It was announced Wednesday that Montana had its first death associated with e-cigarette or vaping use. The person was in their late teens with a history of vaping. This, according to the Montana Department of Public Health. The Centers for Disease Control has a new name for the disease that's killed 26 across the country, EVALI. It's an acronym standing for e-cigarette vaping product use associated lung injury. A mouthful, that's for sure. But health officials across the country and within the state still haven't pinned down which products are causing the disease.
With e-cigarettes, there's a heck of a lot we don't know. These really came on the market in 2007 and have proliferated since then, sadly, a lot among our youth.
The first vaping-related death in Montana comes on the heels of Governor Bullock announcing a temporary 120-day ban on the sale of flavored e-cigarettes in the state. That ban goes into effect October 22nd. On a biological level, officials don't know how vapor from e-cigarettes interacts with the body to cause these problems.
To get down to the specifics of what's causing this, we don't have a clear answer. There are some patterns that people are seeing. Again, this is a understanding in process. There's a lot of information out there to look at and to make some hypotheses on, but I don't think any conclusive data is out there.
Vaping advocates are not happy with Governor Bullock's ban. Here's a look at some Facebook comments on Q2's page. Many asking, if we ban vapes, why not cigarettes, since doctors know for a fact that traditional smoking causes cancer. Others have been saying all along what the CDC has now recognized, that most people affected have a history of vaping THC, the psychoactive compound in cannabis. Every day, more information is being gathered to be looked at by doctors to hopefully better understand this disease. In Billings, Mitch Laggy, MTN News.
Thanks, Mitch.
Well, Montana health officials are urging people who vape to stop, and doctors are working with patients to provide samples of e-liquid and hear information about people's pattern of use.
The more data collected, the closer doctors will be to determining what exactly causes the vaping-related injury.
Well, the Billings Police Department is looking at some threatening texts sent to a high school girl.
Police cannot say much because of the investigation. Q2's David J. has more from police.
Well, Jeanelle, Russ, the police are looking into what type of phone or other device was used to send those texts. The texts state that the person is making the threats to a girl in high school. Some of the texts use the words tie up, rape, and torture. The texter says to the girl, "Let me go into detail what I'm going to do to you." The police investigation involved determining if the person making the threats is local and that type of device.
There's a lot to tracking down phones. So what I can tell you for publicly releasable information anyways is that there are numerous ways to use phone numbers to make contact either over by voice or text message. Not all of those are traceable. Some of those are, and that's what the investigation is kind of focusing on around at this point is can we trace that number?
And there have also been reports that the girl went to the police station and was turned away. Lieutenant Woolley says the police department is also investigating this report to determine what happened. Janelle?
All right, thanks so much, David. A Helena man who pleaded guilty last month to shooting his friend, a former Billings University team doctor, is going to prison. Greg Trude will spend the next 3.5 years behind bars. Trude admitted to shooting his friend, Dr. Eugene Buzz Walton, in a former Kmart parking lot in Helena in 2018. The two men were returning from a hunting trip when Walton pulled his rifle out of Trude's truck and Trude's rifle went off. The official sentence was 20 years, but the judge suspended all but 3.5. Trude apologized to Walton's family today, saying he bears the burden of the death every day. Now, the judge decided to sentence Trude to deter others from negligent actions.
City of Helena is asking residents in the area of a train derailment at an MRL rail yard to voluntarily evacuate or shelter in place as crews work to remove derailed train cars. Montana Rail Link says 2 of the 4 cars contain liquid propane. The derailment happened around 4:25 this morning while crews were attempting to switch cars in the Helena yard. Propane cars are fully intact, and officials say there's no immediate threat to the public.
Well, Interstate 90 between St. Regis and Borgia closed for a good portion of today after a semi-truck from Montana crashed around a curve, spilling talcum powder.
Montana Highway Patrol tells us the truck's load shifted and the trailer flipped, spilling large bags of talcum powder onto the eastbound lanes of I-90 with at least 2 inches of talcum powder spilling onto the highway. It is considered hazardous when the talcum powder is airborne and a person breathes it in.
A cleanup crew arrived on scene shortly after 10 this morning with vacuums to clean up the spill. Montana Highway Patrol is investigating if speed was a factor in this crash. The driver was not hurt but will be cited for the accident.
Cape Air showed off its new plane that will soon be transporting passengers across Montana. It's part of the regional airline's plans to replace its entire fleet. Cape Air expects the first P-2012 travelers to take to the skies in December, with the first one coming to Montana sometime after the first of the year. The airline expects to eventually take delivery of up to 100 of those planes from Italian manufacturer Tecnam. Cape Air says the planes are faster and have more passenger comforts and will also save the company money on maintenance costs.
Well, Democratic candidate for Montana Governor Mike Cooney says he wants to prevent outside money and self-funding by wealthy candidates from being part of the campaign. And to achieve that goal today, he asked other candidates to sign a pledge. Now, by signing this pledge, candidates would agree to an unusual deal. For every dollar of personal money they spend on their campaign or that is spent by an outside group on their behalf, the campaign would donate 50 cents to a charity chosen by opponents. Cooney, the current lieutenant governor, signed the pledge Wednesday and said he believes it would be self-enforcing. He made the offer to his opponents in the Democratic primary, but said if he's the nominee next year, he would make the same offer to a Republican nominee. And Cooney said the pledge is not directed at any one candidate, such as Republican Greg Gianforte, a multimillionaire who has spent a large amount of his personal fortune on past campaigns. Rather, Cooney says it's a proactive way for candidates to force big money out of the race.
I think it will go a long way to making sure that Montanans' voices aren't drowned out by big out-of-state dollars and secret groups that don't want people to know who they are. I think it is time that people running for office, candidates for office, step forward and say, look, enough is enough. We are not going to continue to do business this way just because this is the way the rules allow us to do this.
Now, the campaign office of one of Cooney's Democratic opponents, Whitney Williams, called the pledge a political stunt and said it's a commitment for unilaterally disarming against someone like Gianforte.
Well, this Halloween is going to the dogs in Billings.
The first downtown day of the dogs, Halloween, is set for Saturday, October 26th and is part of the efforts to increase the pet friendliness in downtown. Various businesses will take part and offer treats for dogs and humans. There will be giveaways and professional photos to benefit the Yellowstone Valley Animal Shelter.
And pups can also compete in a costume contest. The Downtown Business Association will kick off the festivities. For more information on participating locations, you can visit KTVQ.com.
And there's more news from across our state tonight. Montana students put their green thumbs to good use today, planting more than 700 plants. We'll tell you why and where on tonight's statewide MTN News at 9 o'clock on the CW.
But first, still to come on tonight's 5:30 News, Missoula sticking to its mission for 100% green energy and taking it to school to find out how.
And later in sports, the Grizz will face a Sac State quarterback that actually played for Bobby Houck at UNLV. Houck shares his thoughts.
And the warm-up lived up to its expectations today, but what goes up must come down. We'll take a look at the forecast coming up in just a few minutes.
You're watching MTN News with Jeanelle Slade and Russ Riesinger. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Green. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.